You ever had that feeling like you're just drowning in things to do, work stuff, personal life stuff, endless lists,
Hmm.
and that feeling that you never quite get caught up no matter what? Yeah, it's super common, and often it really boils down to, well, procrastination. So today we're doing a deep dive into how to actually beat that, how to stop procrastinating and, genuinely get more done in less time. Our roadmap for this is a huge international bestseller, sold like over 500,000 copies. It's Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog. The subtitle says it all. 21 great ways to start procrastinating and get more done in less time.
Yeah, what's really great about Tracy's book is how practical it is. It's all action. He doesn't get bogged down in the deep psychological theories of why we procrastinate. Instead, he gives you these really concrete, proven strategies you can use like right away,
Really?
fast-acting stuff. So our mission here is to pull out those key actionable ideas for you, tools you can use today.
Okay, let's jump right in then. This frog, what exactly is the frog we're supposed to be eating? And why is it so important? Well, the whole idea, the metaphor, it comes from Mark Twain. He said something like, if the first thing you do each morning is to eat a live frog, you can go through the day knowing that's probably the worst thing that'll happen to you all day.
Exactly. And Tracy really runs with that. Your frog is basically your biggest, most crucial task. It's usually the one you're most tempted to put off, right?
Mm.
Because it's tough or complicated or maybe just unpleasant. But here's the twist, the paradox. Finishing that task is what will have the single biggest positive impact on your life and your results right at that moment.
Huh. Okay. And he gives us rules for this. Frog eating. Yeah, two main ones. First, if you have to eat two frogs, eat the ugliest one first, which means basically tackle the biggest, hardest, most important one right off the bat. Don't avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
Get the worst over with. And the second rule is just as vital. If you have to eat a live frog at all, it doesn't pay to sit and look at it for very long. So don't sit there staring at it, thinking about how awful it is.
Right. It's about building a habit, a lifelong habit of just doing your major task first thing in the morning,
Sure.
without overthinking it, without psyching yourself out. And, this isn't just about personal productivity. Tracy connects it to the bigger picture. He points out that failure to execute is a huge issue in companies and organizations. It holds people back. You're paid and promoted, he says, for getting specific, measurable results, for making real contributions, not just for being busy, and acting on those big priorities first. That's what delivers those results.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But here's the big question, I think, for a lot of us. How do you actually make eating the frog a habit? Like a real, consistent, day in, day out thing, especially when your gut reaction is to, well, avoid the frog?
That's a really good question, because habit formation is key here. Tracy sees it as a skill, both mental and physical. And like any skill, you can learn it. Practice and repetition, that's the core. He also mentioned something interesting in the endorphin release. When you finish a task, especially a big one, your brain gives you this little reward, this natural high. It feels good. You feel successful. He even calls it a positive addiction to accomplishment.
Ah, okay. So your brain chemistry actually helps reinforce the habit.
Exactly. And he breaks down forming the habit into what he calls the 3 Ds. First, the decision. You have to consciously decide to build this habit. Second, discipline. You got to practice it consistently, even when you don't feel like it. And third, determination. You stick with it until it's locked in, until it becomes second nature.
It's not just the action itself, though, is it? He talks about something else that I found really fascinating. The power of self-image.
Mm-hmm. It's huge.
Yeah, like visualizing yourself as someone who is highly productive, someone effective, efficient, who gets important stuff done quickly and well. Apparently that visualization has a really strong effect on your actual behavior.
Absolutely. Your internal picture, how you see yourself, it really does tend to shape your external performance. It sets you up mentally.
So before we even pick our frog for the day, Tracy says we need to set the table. What does he mean by that?
It means getting crystal clear on what you actually want to achieve. Before you can prioritize, you need to know the destination. He hammers this point home. Clarity, he says, is perhaps the most important concept in personal productivity. Total clarity.
And he advocates for thinking on paper, right? Writing things down.
Yes. Critically important. He mentions this wild statistic that only maybe 3% of adults have clear, written goals. But those 3%, they achieve 5 to 10 times more than people with similar smarts and abilities who don't write their goals down.
Wow, 5 to 10 times. That's huge.
It really is. Writing it down makes it real. It takes it from a wish to a concrete objective.
Okay, so clarity first, then what? He talks about planning, right? That elephant analogy.
Exactly. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Same applies to your big, ugly frog task. You break it down through planning.
And he has that really impactful rule, the 10-90 rule.
Yeah, that one's powerful.
The first 10% of time you spend planning and organizing your work before you start can save you up to 90% of the time it takes to actually do the work once you get going.
It's incredible leverage, isn't it? Just a little upfront planning has this massive payoff.
Totally. It reminds me of that old saying, the 6P formula.
Ah, yes. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. Classic and true. And it sounds simple, planning, but it's genuinely transformative when you do it consistently. Tracy suggests using different kinds of lists to help, like a master list for everything way out in the future. Then maybe a monthly list. A weekly list is key, he says. Spending a couple of hours at the end of the week planning the next one really boosts productivity for many people.
And the daily list too, right? Made the night before.
Yes, the daily list, ideally prepared the evening before. That's crucial because it lets your subconscious mind kind of chew on it overnight. You wake up with more clarity about what needs doing.
And just the act of ticking things off a list, there's a real psychological boost there, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. It gives you a visual sense of progress, that feeling of accomplishment, of moving forward. It fuels motivation. It helps build that positive addiction we mentioned.
Okay, so we've got clarity. We've planned our day, maybe the night before. Now we look at the list, and there are probably multiple frogs staring back at us. How do we pick which one to eat first? Tracy brings in the 80-20 rule here, right? The Pareto principle.
Yes, and this is such a foundational concept for productivity. He applies it directly to your task list, to your frogs. The basic idea is 20% of your activities will generate 80% of your results. So if you have a list of 10 tasks, maybe only 2 of them are the really high-value ones, the ones that truly move the needle.
Those are the frogs.
Those are your frogs, your vital few. But here's the kicker. Most people tend to procrastinate on those very tasks. They fill their time with the other 8, the lower value stuff. They feel busy, look busy.
But they're not actually achieving much of significance. Ouch.
It's that trap, isn't it? The small, easy tasks give you a quick hit of, I did something, but it's often an illusion of productivity.
So the key question to ask yourself before starting anything is this task in my top 20% or my bottom 80%?
Exactly. And he adds that rule. Resist the temptation to clear up small things first. Don't get sidetracked by the tadpoles when there's a big frog waiting.
It's about mistaking motion for actual progress.
Precisely. And this prioritization gets even sharper when you think about the long-term impact, the consequences. Tracy really emphasizes this. He says a key trait of high achievers is their ability to accurately predict the consequences of doing something or not doing it.
He even mentions that Harvard research, right, about long-time perspective.
Yeah, Dr. Edward Banfield's work. Finding that having a long-term view is like the single best predictor of upward mobility, socially and economically. It's about thinking beyond the immediate moment, beyond the immediate discomfort of tackling the frog.
So by definition, an important task has potentially significant long-term consequences. An unimportant one doesn't.
It's that simple, really.
He quotes Dennis Waitley, too, something about failures versus winners.
Right. Failures do what is tension relieving, while winners do what is goal achieving. That really cuts to the chase. Are you seeking comfort or are you seeking results? And this leads to what Tracy calls the law of forced efficiency.
It is.
Basically. There is never enough time to do everything, but there is always enough time to do the most important thing. It forces you to choose. You have to prioritize because time is finite.
So to make sure we're always zeroing in on that most important thing, he gives us 3 questions to ask ourselves constantly.
Very powerful questions.
First, what are my highest value activities? Which are my biggest frogs? The ones making the biggest contribution. Second, and this one's from Peter Drucker, what can I and only I do that if done well will make a real difference? Something uniquely suited to you.
That's a deep one. It forces you to think about your unique value.
And third, what is the most valuable use of my time right now? Like in this very moment, the core time management question.
Yeah, constantly asking that keeps you anchored. And Goethe summed it all up beautifully, didn't he?
Oh yeah, what was that quote?
The things that matter most must never be at the mercy of the things that matter least.
Powerful.
Okay, now for something that sounds, well, contradictory, practice creative procrastination. How does that work? Isn't procrastination the enemy here?
Yeah, it sounds weird at first, doesn't it? But think about it. Since you genuinely cannot do everything on your plate, you are inevitably going to procrastinate on something. It's unavoidable.
Okay. So creative procrastination is about being intentional about what you put off. You thoughtfully, deliberately decide which tasks you are not going to do right now, maybe not ever. It means consciously choosing to delay or ignore the smaller, less important tasks, the tadpoles or smaller frogs, so you can focus all your energy on the really big, ugly, important ones.
So it's not just random procrastination, it's strategic postponement.
Exactly. It's proactive, not reactive.
This makes me think of his idea of priorities versus posteriorities, what you put first versus what you put last, or maybe never do.
Right. And a key tool for this is learning to use the word no effectively.
Saying no to low-value tasks, requests, distractions. Yep.
Politely, courteously, as he says, but firmly. And crucially, say it early and say it often. Don't let those low-value things even get onto your plate if you can help it.
That's a skill in itself, saying no gracefully.
Definitely. And to help with this whole prioritization thing, deciding what's important, what to say no to, what to procrastinate on, he offers a really practical tool, the ABCDE method. Right. Applying this to your to-do list every day. Let's break that down.
Okay, so you go through your list and label each item.
An A item is top priority. Very important. Something you must do. Serious negative consequences if you don't. These are your frogs.
Mm-hmm. And you might even have multiple A tasks, so you'd label them A1, A2, A3 in order of importance. Your A1 is your biggest, ugliest frog for the day.
Then B items. These are things you should do. They have some value, but the consequences for not doing them are mild. Tadpoles, basically.
And the key rule here, never, ever do a B task if there's still an A task left undone. Focus on the A's first.
Got it. Then C items. These are things that are nice to do, like calling a friend, having coffee. No real consequences if you don't do them for your work results.
Right. Pleasant, maybe, but not essential for your core goals.
D items are for delegate. Anything you can pass on to someone else to free up your time for your A tasks.
Crucial leverage point. If someone else can do it 70% as well as you, delegate it. And finally, E items stand for eliminate. Tasks you can just stop doing altogether because they honestly make no real difference. Things that crept onto your list but don't add value.
It's amazing how many E tasks we do out of habit. This forces you to question them. But the real magic isn't just the labeling, it's the discipline again. You must train yourself to start immediately on your A1 task and stick with it until it's 100% complete. Eat that frog fully before even thinking about A2 or any Bs.
That takes focus. Okay, shifting gears slightly, let's look at the bigger picture of our work. Tracy talks about focusing on key result areas, or KRAs. He asks a pretty direct question. Why are you on the payroll? What specific results are you actually hired to achieve?
Yet forces you to think about your core function. He says most jobs have maybe 5 to 7 KRAs. These are the absolute essential outcomes you must deliver to be successful in your role. Think of them like the vital functions of your job. If one fails, the whole system suffers.
And he makes this critical point. Your weakest key result area sets the height at which you can use all your other skills and abilities.
Exactly, to the bottleneck. If you're brilliant at 6 KRAs, but weak at the 7th, that 7th one will hold you back overall.
And often, that weak area is where we tend to procrastinate the most, right? Because it's difficult or uncomfortable.
Precisely. We avoid our weaknesses. So identifying and strengthening that weak KRA is vital.
Which leads to his great question. What one skill, if I developed and did it in an excellent fashion, would have the greatest positive impact on my career?
Finding that skill and mastering it can unlock huge progress. And this ties into another powerful idea he calls the law of 3.
Yeah, the story about his client, Cynthia.
That's the one. She analyzed her work and realized that just 3 specific tasks accounted for 90% of the value she contributed to her company. 90%.
Wow. Only 3 things.
Right. So she decided to focus almost exclusively on getting those 3 tasks done exceptionally well.
And the result?
She doubled her income in less than a month and actually improved her work-life balance because she wasn't spinning her wheels on low-value stuff.
Yeah, that's incredible. It really hammers home that 80-20 idea. Maybe it's even 90-10 sometimes.
Or 903 in her case.
Yeah.
It reinforces Tracy's point. Your rewards, both financial and emotional, will always be in direct proportion to your results, to the value of your contribution. Focus on high-value results.
Does this law of 3 apply outside of work, too?
He thinks so. He suggests the quick list method for life goals. Take 30 seconds right now and jot down your 3 most important goals in life. Often they fall into categories like financial career, family relationships, and health fitness. Identifying those top 3 clarifies your overall direction.
And it all connects back to why we manage time in the first place, doesn't it?
Exactly. He says the main reason that you develop time management skills is so that you can get everything that is really important in your work completed. so that you can free up more and more time to do the things in your personal life that give you the greatest happiness and satisfaction. It's about creating space for what truly matters.
He has that great line, too. It is quality of time at work that counts and quantity of time at home that matters.
A powerful distinction. Be efficient at work to be present at home.
Okay, let's talk preparation. Getting ready to eat the frog. Tracy says being fully prepared is like, what was it? A cocked gun?
Yeah. Or an archer with the arrow pulled back taut. You're ready to go.
Yeah.
Just need that small mental push to start. His advice here is very down to earth. Clear your workspace, get rid of clutter, gather everything you need, information, materials, tools before you start.
Set yourself up for success, basically.
Right. Create a comfortable, focused environment. He even shares his personal rule. Aim to get it 80% right and then correct it later.
So don't let perfectionism and preparation become another form of procrastination.
Exactly. Prepare sufficiently, then act. Don't wait for perfect conditions.
It reminds me of that story about screenwriters in LA where almost done really meant haven't started yet.
Yes. And Wayne Gretzky's famous quote, "You miss every shot you don't take." Preparation is essential, but action is decisive. You have to take the shot.
Which leads nicely into tackling those really huge, overwhelming tasks. His advice is take it one oil barrel at a time.
Like they're saying, by the yard it's hard, but inch by inch, anything's a cinch. Break it down.
He uses that great analogy, crossing the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, a 500-mile stretch marked only by these black oil barrels, placed 5 kilometers apart. In the daytime, you could always see 2 barrels, the one you just passed, and the next one 5 kilometers ahead. That's all you needed.
Just focus on reaching the next barrel.
Exactly. All you had to do was aim for the next visible marker. You didn't need to see the finish line 500 miles away, just the next step.
So you can tackle even the biggest frog in your life by just focusing on the very next step. Take it one piece at a time.
Go as far as you can currently see, and when you get there, you'll be able to see further.
It's like that phrase, leap and the net will appear. Just taking that first step often reveals the next one.
Precisely. It overcomes that initial overwhelm.
Now, something that really boosts your ability to tackle those frogs consistently. Upgrade your key skills.
Oh, this is critical. Tracy calls it one of the most important productivity principles.
Why is that?
Because the better you become at eating a particular type of frog, the more likely you are to just plunge in and get it done. Competence builds confidence and reduces hesitation. If a task feels easier because you're skilled at it, you're less likely to procrastinate on it.
Makes sense. You dread things less if you feel capable.
Absolutely. He argues that continuous learning is the minimum requirement for success in any field. You have to keep getting better. He even learned touch typing himself, just so he could write his books more efficiently. Improving that one skill saved him thousands of hours.
Wow. So how does he suggest we do this continuous learning?
He gives 3 core steps to work towards mastery in your field.
Okay.
1. Read about your field for at least an hour every day. Books, articles, journals, stay current.
An hour a day? Okay.
2. Take courses and seminars.
Yeah.
Attend conferences. Invest in formal learning on your key skills.
Right.
And 3. Listen to audio programs related to your field, especially during commute time. Turn driving time into learning time. He estimates that could be 500 to 1,000 hours of learning a year for many people.
That's reclaiming dead time. Smart.
And as you build these skills, you should also focus on leveraging your special talents.
What does he mean by that?
He really emphasizes that everyone is unique. You are remarkable, he says. You have specific talents and abilities that make you different. There are certain types of frogs that you are uniquely suited to eat, or could become uniquely suited to eat with practice. Identifying and focusing on those can make you incredibly valuable.
So it's about self-awareness, asking yourself, what am I naturally good at? What parts of my work do I genuinely enjoy?
Exactly. What's been most responsible for my success so far? Lean into those areas where you have a natural advantage or passion. That's where you can often make the biggest impact.
But even when playing to your strengths, you hit obstacles, which brings us to identify your key constraints.
Right. Tracy says that between where you are now and any goal you want to reach, there's usually one main thing holding you back, one major constraint or bottleneck.
So the question is, what is it that's holding me back? What's setting the speed limit on my progress?
And here's where the 80-20 rule pops up again. He suggests that 80% of the constraints holding you back are internal.
Internal, meaning inside us.
Yeah. Not usually lack of money or resources or other people, though those can play a part. More often, it's something within ourselves, A lack of skill, a limiting belief, a bad habit, fear, indecision.
That puts the responsibility back on us.
It does. He says successful people always begin the analysis of constraints by asking the question, what is it in me that is holding me back? Start with self-reflection.
Okay, that leads to a potentially tough one. Put the pressure on yourself. This sounds stressful.
Well, it's about internal drive versus external waiting. He
Yeah.
points out the world is full of people who are waiting for someone to come along and motivate them.
Waiting for a boss or a coach or
Yeah.
someone.
Right. But the problem is, as he puts it bluntly, no one is coming to the rescue. You can't wait for external motivation. So to reach your potential, you have to develop the habit of creating your own sense of urgency, putting constructive pressure on yourself.
How do you do that without just stressing yourself out?
One technique he suggests is using imaginary deadlines, like pretend you absolutely have to leave town for a month, starting tomorrow. Ask yourself, what tasks would I absolutely positively have to get done before I leave? That clarifies your real priorities and creates urgency.
Okay. It's self-imposed urgency, not panic.
Precisely. And to sustain that drive, you need energy. Which brings us to maximize your personal powers.
Meaning our physical and mental energy.
Exactly. Your physical, mental, and emotional energy levels are the raw material for high performance. If your energy is low, your productivity will be too, no matter how good your intentions are.
So how do we maximize it? Sleep seems key.
Hugely important. He notes that productivity starts to drop off after about 8 or 9 hours of work. Pushing longer often means underproducing. And he points out that most people, particularly Americans, simply aren't getting enough sleep. His advice: turn off the TV, go to bed earlier, maybe aim for 10 p.m.
And taking breaks is important too, like days off.
Crucial. Take at least one full day off every week, a day where you refuse to do demanding mental work. Let your brain fully recharge. It's not lazy, it's strategic recovery.
Makes sense. And diet and exercise.
Absolutely foundational. He recommends good nutrition, high-protein, low-fat breakfast, salads with lean protein for lunch, and regular exercise aiming for around 200 minutes a week. These aren't optional extras for high performers, they're non-negotiable.
So, energy managed. What about mindset? He talks about motivating yourself.
Yes, motivate yourself into action. You need to be your own cheerleader. Your internal dialogue matters immensely.
So, things like positive self-talk. I like myself. I can do it. I feel terrific.
Exactly. Controlling that inner voice, consciously choosing optimism. He quotes Viktor Frankl.
Oh, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor.
Right. Frankl said, the last great freedom of mankind is the freedom to choose your attitude under any set of external conditions. You always control your response.
And the optimists have certain habits, right?
Tracy identifies 3 core behaviors. First, optimists actively look for the good in every situation, even negative ones. Second, they seek the valuable lesson in every setback or difficulty. They see problems as instruction, not just obstruction. Difficulties come not to obstruct, but to instruct, he says.
That's a powerful reframe.
It is. And third, they always look for the solution to every problem. They're action-oriented towards fixing things, not dwelling on them. And they constantly think and talk about their goals.
Okay, shifting to a very modern challenge. Get out of the technological time sinks. This is huge today.
Isn't it? He nails it. Technology can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It offers amazing tools, but also massive distractions, constant notifications, the emails, the social media. It's addictive, and it fragments our attention, making deep work almost impossible.
So what's the solution? Go offline completely.
Not necessarily, but manage it consciously. To stay calm and clear-headed, he advises, you need to detach regularly from technology. Apply the 80-20 rule to email, for instance. He reckons 80% of emails are low value. Maybe only 4% need an immediate reply. Consider delegating email sorting if possible.
He tells a story about a client saving 23 hours a week just by delegating email.
23 hours. Imagine getting nearly 3 workdays back per week just by getting control of your inbox.
Wow. So the message is, don't be a slave to the tech.
Exactly. Create zones of silence. Deliberately turn off your phone, close email, shut down notifications for focused work blocks, especially first thing in the morning when you should be eating your frog.
And trust that if something is truly urgent and important,
someone will find a way to tell you. The world won't end if you're offline for an hour or two. Protect your focus.
Okay, back to tackling those big, intimidating frogs. Sometimes the sheer size is the problem. His advice: slice and dice the task.
Yeah, if a task looks too big and scary, break it down into smaller, less intimidating pieces.
He has 2 techniques for this, right? Salami slice and Swiss cheese.
That's right. The salami slice method is just what it sounds like. Break the huge task down into thin, manageable slices or steps. Lay them out in sequence and just focus on completing the very next slice.
Like eating a roll of salami one piece at a time. Makes sense.
And the Swiss cheese method is about punching holes in the task.
Mm.
If you can't face starting the whole thing, just commit to working on it for a very short fixed period, say 5 or 10 minutes.
Just 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, just long enough to poke a hole in it. Often, just getting started like that breaks the inertia and you find yourself continuing, or at least you've made some progress.
And this connects back to that idea of the compulsion to closure.
Exactly. Our brains like finishing things. Even starting and completing a small part of a big task gives you that little hit of satisfaction and energy. He says, the bigger the frog you eat, or even the bigger slice you finish, the greater the surge of personal power and energy you'll experience. Starting is often the hardest part.
To do this focused work, though, especially on big tasks, you need uninterrupted time, which leads to create large chunks of time.
Deep, complex work eating big frogs usually requires sustained focus. You can't do it effectively in 5-minute bursts between meetings or emails. Multitasking is mostly a myth for demanding work.
So how do we create these chunks?
Be intentional about scheduling. Make work appointments with yourself in your calendar for specific high-priority tasks, and then keep those appointments as seriously as you'd keep one with your boss.
Block out time.
Yes, use a time planner to visually identify where you can consolidate smaller blocks into larger ones. Maybe work from home sometimes if that allows for fewer interruptions. Use travel time wisely for focused thinking or planning. Protect your time fiercely.
And related to that, the next principle is develop a sense of urgency.
This is key. Tracy observes that maybe the most obvious trait of high-performing people is their action orientation. They have a bias for action. They seem to be in a hurry to get their key tasks done.
Not frantic, but focused and moving with purpose.
Exactly. This sense of urgency helps trigger that state of flow or being in the zone where you're fully immersed and highly productive. He also claims the faster you move, the more energy you have.
Yeah.
And the faster you move, the more you get done and the more effective you feel. It creates positive momentum.
So how do we cultivate this? He offers some simple mantras.
Yeah, really simple but effective ones. To get started on a task you're dreading, just tell yourself forcefully, do it now. Repeat it if you have to.
And to stay focused when you get distracted.
Use the mantra back to work. Pull yourself back immediately to the task at hand. Simple commands to direct your own focus.
Okay, we're nearing the end of the 21 ways. The final one seems to tie everything together. Single handle every task.
It really does. He says all the planning, prioritizing, and organizing ultimately lead to this simple concept.
Which is?
Once you begin your most important task, your A1 frog, work without diversion or detraction until the job is 100% complete.
100% complete. No stopping halfway to check email or start something else.
Right. Stick with it until it is done. He points out that starting a task, stopping, and then starting again can actually increase the total time needed to finish it by as much as 500%.
500%. Because of the mental switching costs.
Exactly. The time lost getting back up to speed, refocusing, it's huge. So, single tasking your most important work is far more efficient. It comes down to this ultimate truth, he states. Once you have decided on your number one task, anything else that you do other than that is a relative waste of time. Until that A1 is done, everything else is a distraction.
That's pretty hardcore. Requires serious discipline.
It does. And he links that discipline, that persistence to finish, directly to building self-esteem, character, and creating this upward spiral of personal effect. Each frog you eat makes you stronger for the next one.
Wow. Okay, so that's a whirlwind tour of Eat That Frog. Let's try to recap the core message. Fundamentally, Brian Tracy argues that the real key to success, happiness, productivity is developing like one habit. Eat your biggest, most important task, your frog, first thing every single day.
That's the heart of it. And supporting that habit are all these principles we touched on. Clarity on goals, planning daily, the 80-20 rule, thinking about consequences, using creative procrastination and the ABCDE method, focusing on your key result areas and the law of three, preparing thoroughly, taking it one step at a time, constantly upgrading your skills, using your talents, finding your constraints, creating internal pressure, managing your energy, motivating yourself, avoiding tech traps, slicing big tasks, blocking out time, building urgency, and finally, single-handling your main task. It's a really complete system.
And it's powerful to remember Tracy's own story. Going from manual labor jobs to being a vice president by age 25, just by watching successful people and doing what they did. He really believes success isn't random. It's predictable if you apply these kinds of principles consistently.
He makes a strong case. Which leads to maybe a final thought for everyone listening. If, as Tracy says, failure to execute is a massive problem today, and your weakest key result area limits your overall potential, what single action could you take, maybe even today, based on everything we discussed, that would have the biggest immediate impact on improving your performance? And maybe more importantly, what's the real constraint, perhaps internal, that's stopping you from taking that action right now?
That's a great question to ponder. Food for thought, or maybe frog for thought. Anyway, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into conquering procrastination with Eat That Frog. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and absolutely keep eating those frogs.